Okay, I'm not making this video long at all. I just have to say, Raw was pure shit. Man, this might have been one of the worst Raws I've ever seen. Honestly, and it's just because this King of the Ring tournament is full of baby faces. That's all it was. I'm gonna try to go in order in this unrememberable Raw ever, but just to start it off, Seth started it off, with his garbage faction or whatever, and he's just, telling us how, he's the reason for everything in the WWE right now, blah, blah, blah. Seth, no one cares. Honestly, no one cares. But I would say, put some respect on Seth's name, because Seth is honestly, I guess, what Triple H was in the WWF, sort of. Triple H was in that main event card, but Triple H was kind of always that person that was never the top dog. He was never top 3, top 4 ever, even though he always would have that world heavyweight title. He was never just that top guy. He was always just thrown in when needed to be. And that's kind of what Seth is. Seth is giving stuff when there is nothing, and hey, make something up. Seth's gonna be in the Hall of Fame just from longevity and being that company guy. Not complaining or nothing. But man, that was a yawn fest. Him just talking. But if I had to, give a comparison, Seth is almost like Allen Iverson of the WWE or something. Maybe a Tim Duncan, because Tim Duncan has a championship, but Seth is never really in any controversies or anything like that. Really no smut on his name. He's not, just throwing other wrestlers just totally under the bus, doing them dirty. Except for kayfabe storyline, kayfabe storyline, he's a good heel. But in real life, Seth is a nice person. But then you get Braun Breaker versus Penta. And this type of match should be a match that you kind of get on Raw on the regular. This wasn't anything special to just be like, this is a great match. This is, your starter match, I guess. Your starter match for the show. And for some reason, Braun Breaker and Penta, don't have that great chemistry. And with Braun Breaker and Penta, I want to say, being new in the company, I can see them having a match maybe 1 or 2 years from now. If they, keep wrestling each other, they're going to build that chemistry up. But, this match, I don't want to call them botches. I just want to say a few missed timings, That's about it. I see Braun Breaker, I see Penta being in this company long term, and I see their matches getting better. Next, you have, Sami Zayn punch the shit out of Karrion Kross, and they have a match at Night of Champions. Then we find out Dominic and AJ Styles don't have a match at Night of Champions. So maybe they swap those two out, where Dominic and AJ might have been swapped out for Karrion Kross and Sammy. I don't know, but he was like, Dominic's injured, but Dominic isn't injured. Dominic was on Raw ducking, AJ Styles, and I hope this is just fake and we actually get Dominic versus AJ. I would like to see that. I just want to see Dominic defend. Next, you got Jade Cargill and Roxanne Perez, which, man, it's like I said, Roxanne Perez is a great wrestler. Jade Cargill, looking at this match, it's, she's not a good actor almost in the ring. It's, this match should have been great. It wasn't. And it wasn't botches. I'm not going to call it botches. They had a lot of mistimings. Jade is being overly safe in the match. Like, when she goes to throw Perez like into the corner, she's starting with a lot of force, and then you can tell she's letting up to not hurt her, but it's Jade, you gotta get rough. That's all I'm saying. You need people like, man, imagine if Kurt Angle and William Regal, Fit Finlay, if they were training her, she would be 10 times better. That's the only issue I have with Jade right now. She's not holding back from the power bombs, the slams, or anything like that, but when it's time to get up in there and actually, shove a boot in your face, or, just be rough, you have to be rough and safe at the same time, and she just doesn't get it right now. You need to throw, Roxanne into those ropes, dig deep, maybe go talk to Stone Cold, go talk to Mark Henry, and Jade would be fine. Jade is like, 75% there. That's all she needs. Right now, I see why Jade went to the development center. The problem with Jade was that Jade should have been in NXT. Jade probably should have been in NXT and gotten a lot better before hitting that main roster. The problem was Jade was so over in AEW that when she hit WWE, if she would have went to NXT, she would have just been, the biggest star there, and then she would have had a lot of eyes on her, and that pressure to just perform well would have probably, just turned her morale down. But they put her in good hands with Naomi and Bianca, and now it's like, okay, now you got to show what you can do, and you're getting there. But man, Jade versus Asuka, they fought each other a couple times in a tag team match. Asuka is a phenomenal wrestler. She's going to protect Jade, and she's going to make Jade look great. Who's going to win the match? I'm not sure, but I think that's what's going to happen, is that Jade is probably going to win Queen of the Ring, and Asuka is going to have to make Jade look awesome. Because if Jade has to fight Io Sky, you know, you're going to have to be on your A game. I honestly, I don't want to say this, but I don't think Jade is ready for, you know, a world heavyweight. I don't want to say the women's title. I don't think Jade's ready for that. You know, Jade wrestling ability right now is starting to look a little Zelina Vega-ish. Like it just never improved from when she walked in with Bianca. I'm sad to say it's not the worst, terriblest type wrestling. I'm not saying that. It's just, you know, she's stuck at like a 70 overall, you know, and it's just gonna take time. It's going to take time. Like, Jade needs to be wrestling in buku dark matches. She needs to be on WWE Speed. She needs to be on SmackDown. She needs to be in dark matches. Like, she needs to be a workhorse just to improve. Like, that's how you improve. That's why Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era, those people were so sharp because they was wrestling. Hell, I've seen Undertaker wrestle in dark matches, you know, and that was like Undertaker, American Badass Undertaker, was still doing live show event that wasn't televised. You know, even Kane and Triple H, you know, they was wrestling. But I digress. You know, we're gonna move on to Bayley versus Becky. That match was, you know, I want to say okay, but they wasn't trying to give us their best self. You know, this match should have went way better than what it was, especially if they're not fighting at Night of Champions. You know, match could have been good. Becky is good. Bayley is good. You know, so it's it could have been better, but we knew this wasn't going anywhere. You know, Lyra gets the DQ for Bayley and Becky wins. Whatever. Then you get, I'm not going to go through all the backstage segments, but, you know, Chad Gable and Penta had words. So what? Then you get Jey Uso versus Cody Rhodes. And, oh my goodness, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. They had some cool reversals. You know, they had some cool reversals, but it was trash. You know, this match was horrible. I keep saying this, but Jey Uso and Seth had a great Raw match. And that should be, you know, the stepping stone for Raw to have A+ matches like that. But, you know, Jay did some powerful, like, finishes on Cody, went to the top rope to do the Uso splash, and then Cody just kicks up and hits a cutter from the top rope. Like, he wasn't just hurt. Like, I mean, where did Cody get this pop-up ability from? Like, I mean, this isn't 2K. You know, when Ron Breaker does it, you know, he's He's never just mega hurt from taking, the most sort of destructive moves that'll knock him out and just get up. He's not Undertaker that just sits up from tombstones and choke slams. I mean, they didn't know how to end this match well. These wrestlers need to be wrestling Monday through Friday. Get some chemistry. I feel bad for the next probably 5 years until, I don't know what generation you want to call this wrestling. I don't even know what wrestling generation this is. The WWE Universe Wrestling generation. What era is this? The Triple H era? Once this Triple H era is gone, this part-timer era is gone, this post-COVID era, is gone. All of those people that's in NXT, when they start getting their shots, and your Jey Usos and all of them are just mega part-timers, maybe we'll get better wrestling. But, they're ruining it with these NIL deals and all of this other stuff. I mean, I hate to say it. But if AEW get their stuff together, they're going to be number one. Because the wrestling is going to speak for itself. Once AEW gets a good HR team and they actually get some good writers and stuff like that and set some rules in place, they're probably going to take over. Just because their ticket prices isn't 40 grand. It's wrestling. But ticket prices are not meant to be 40 grand for WrestleMania. This isn't the Super Bowl, But, bruh, Raw was trash. I don't know what else to say. If I had to grade Raw, it would be a D+. It would be a D+, and it's sad because on paper, Raw should have been good. On paper, Raw should have been good. So if you're looking at Raw on paper and you're like, oh man, this Raw gonna be great. Hey, it was trash. I don't know what to say. You had like your best guys on there. And Raw was trash. We're not even talking about Gunther's segment. Your champion came out, cut a promo, and it was horrible. And that's your champion. So I'm done with Raw. I'll probably review SmackDown because SmackDown on paper looks like it's going to be good. But I don't know what to say. Raw was trash. Raw is trash. Instead of Raw is war, Raw is trash.